I never thought I'd write something like this. I always figured stories like these only happened to other people, those distant Reddit threads I skimmed over with mild curiosity but never imagined could apply to me. I was proud of my marriage. Lauren and I had been together for 7 years, married for 5, and to anyone who knew us, we were the model couple. She was beautiful, modest, and well-mannered, the kind of woman who exuded quiet grace. Our friends joked that I outkicked my coverage when I met her. Maybe I did, but that never made me insecure. I loved her, and I trusted her. It was a Saturday evening when this story began, a day I'll never forget, though I wish I could. I'd been out running errands, nothing significant, just the mundane stuff you do when life feels steady. I picked up some tools from the hardware store, grabbed a 6-pack of beer, and treated myself to a new gaming headset. Lauren wasn't home. She'd told me she was visiting her sister for a girls' weekend. She didn't do this often. Lauren wasn't the type to go out much, so I never questioned it. After dinner, I settled onto the couch, cracked open a beer, and turned on the TV. I'm not proud of what I was doing next, but I guess I need to be honest for this to make sense. I was browsing a porn site. Lauren and I weren't having problems in that department. She was affectionate and always present in our marriage. But that night, I figured a little distraction wouldn't hurt. I wasn't even looking for anything specific. Just scrolling mindlessly until a thumbnail caught my eye. It wasn't because of the content, 2 men and a woman, that wasn't really my thing. It was the woman herself. For a split second, I felt like I recognized her, like some weird mental glitch. It couldn't be her, though. Lauren was at her sister's. But as the thumbnail enlarged, and I clicked through, I felt my chest tighten. The woman looked just like my wife. The mind does strange things and it's trying to rationalize the irrational. My first thought was ridiculous, she has a doppelganger. That's all. I watched the video with my heart racing. The camera angle was shaky, like someone had filmed it with a hidden device. It wasn't professional. The woman had her back to the camera, but everything about her screamed Lauren, the shape of her body, the mole on her left shoulder blade, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. I still tried to convince myself I was imagining things, that it was coincidence. Then, she turned her head. I dropped the beer I was holding. It was Lauren. My brain short-circuited. I stared at the screen as though watching some foreign reality that couldn't possibly belong to me. My wife, the modest, soft-spoken woman I adored, was on my laptop screen, tangled up with 2 men I didn't know. I tried to pause the video, rewind it, do something to fix what I'd just seen, but my hands were trembling so hard I couldn't control the mouse. I don't even know how long I sat there, the video still playing in the background. When it ended, I closed the browser and sat in silence, staring at the dark reflection of myself on the screen. My face looked foreign to me, like someone had carved all the emotion out of it. I couldn't think. I couldn't feel. And worst of all, I couldn't breathe. At some point, I forced myself to stand up, to do something. I paced the living room like a caged animal, replaying the image in my head over and over, hoping it would change. How was this possible? Lauren was supposed to be at her sister's. How long had this been going on? Who were those men? Did she know this was being filmed? My mind ran wild with questions that had no answers. But denial is a powerful thing. By the time Lauren came home late the next night, I'd convinced myself that it wasn't her. That the video was fake or edited, or that my mind had tricked me into seeing something that wasn't real. I greeted her like nothing had happened, hugged her, kissed her, and asked how her weekend was. She smiled and told me all about her sister's new boyfriend, how they'd gone to a wine tasting, and how nice it was to get away. I watched her closely, looking for cracks in her story, for any hint that she might be lying. But Lauren was flawless, as always. She laughed at my bad jokes, teased me about the pile of dishes I hadn't done, and snuggled into me on the couch as we watched a movie together. That night, as I lay in bed beside her, listening to her soft, steady breathing, I convinced myself that I'd been wrong. It couldn't have been her. Except, the image wouldn't leave me. The mole, the hair, the familiar movements, they haunted me. I didn't bring it up for a week. I buried it, like a wound I didn't want to acknowledge. But as you can probably guess, wounds like that don't heal. They fester. And soon, they explode. For a week, I lived in a haze of denial. Every day, I convinced myself I was losing my mind, that what I'd seen was some bizarre coincidence. Lauren was perfect, too perfect for what I'd witnessed to be real. She cooked dinner, folded my shirts just the way I liked, and left sweet little notes in my lunch bag like she always had. She was the same woman I'd married, kind, thoughtful, and unshakable. But I was different. The video had planted a seed in my mind, and I couldn't stop watering it. I'd catch myself staring at Lauren while she brushed her hair or washed the dishes, searching for something, anything, that didn't fit. A glance held too long. A smile that seemed too practiced. A late night on her phone. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked one night as we sat on the couch. She was curled up beside me, scrolling through her phone. I forced a smile. Like what? Like I just grew a second head. She grinned and nudged my arm playfully. "Just thinking about how lucky I am," I said, the lie slipping out before I could stop it. I hated myself for saying it, but the truth wasn't an option. She laughed softly, kissed me on the cheek, and went back to her phone. That moment should have been reassuring. She seemed normal. But then I saw her screen. It was a text message, though I couldn't make out the words. What I did see was that she tilted the phone ever so slightly away from me, shielding it. It was subtle, but in that moment, it felt like a red flag the size of a football field. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I felt like a man balancing on the edge of a cliff, one wrong word, and I'd fall into something I wasn't ready to face. But I couldn't shake the feeling that things weren't as perfect as they seemed. The next day, I decided to do something I never thought I'd do. I snooped. Lauren had always trusted me completely. We didn't hide anything from each other, or at least, that's what I believed. Her phone was off limits, but she never kept it password protected. I told myself I'd just look, not to spy on her, but to prove to myself that I was being paranoid. When she left for the grocery store, I grabbed her phone off the kitchen counter. My heart pounded in my chest as I opened it. There was no reason to feel guilty, I was trying to save my sanity, not invade her privacy. But when I checked her messages, I found nothing. Literally nothing. Her message app was squeaky clean, no threads, no history. It was like she deleted everything. I checked her email, social media apps, and even her photos. All clear. Too clear. Lauren wasn't tech-savvy. She once had me install a weather app because she didn't want to mess it up. Yet here she was, apparently scrubbing her phone like a professional. I set the phone back down on the counter and sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. My mind raced. Was I crazy? Had I driven myself so far into paranoia that I was now imagining conspiracies? Maybe she'd just cleaned up her phone out of habit. Maybe there was nothing to find. When Lauren came home, she was all smiles. "You okay?" she asked, setting the groceries on the counter. "Yeah, fine," I said. I forced myself to stand and help her unpack the bags, though my hands were shaking. "Did you eat already?" she asked, pulling out a rotisserie chicken. "No, just snacked a little." "Good. I picked up your favorite sides. Thought we could have an easy dinner tonight." She smiled so warmly I nearly believed my own doubts were the problem. How could this woman, this sweet, unassuming woman who picked up mashed potatoes just because she knew I liked them, be the person in that video? I felt insane. That night, as Lauren slept soundly beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my mind spinning in circles. I thought about the video. I thought about the phone. I thought about how perfectly normal Lauren seemed, how nothing in her demeanor gave her away. If it wasn't for that damn video, I would have never suspected a thing. I decided I needed more proof. The next morning, while Lauren was in the shower, I grabbed her laptop. My hands were trembling again as I opened the browser. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. I checked her browsing history first. Nothing there, she'd wiped it clean, just like her phone. But then, as I clicked aimlessly, I found something. An email account I didn't recognize. It wasn't her normal address, the one she used for online shopping and family updates. This one was almost gibberish, lm3421@something.com. It had been saved under her accounts tab, probably because she forgot to remove it. My heart started hammering in my chest. I clicked to log in. Of course, I didn't have the password. I didn't need it, though, because seeing that email was enough. She was hiding something. Lauren came downstairs moments later, towel drying her hair. "What are you doing?" "Just checking the news," I said, snapping the laptop shut. She smiled. "Anything interesting?" "Not really." I kissed her on the cheek and went to make coffee, acting as though everything was fine. But inside, I was unraveling. This wasn't just paranoia anymore. The cracks were starting to show, and I knew that sooner or later, everything was going to come crashing down. I just didn't know how much it would hurt when it did. By now, I couldn't ignore the truth gnawing at me. Denial, which once shielded me, had given way to an all-consuming dread. The video, the email, the subtle shifts in Lauren's behavior, it all lingered like a shadow I couldn't escape. She moved through the house like nothing had changed, folding laundry, smiling as she cooked dinner, leaving notes that said, "Have a great day, love you." But I could feel the cracks beneath the surface, widening just enough to let the suspicion seep in. Her routine had always been predictable, but now the smallest deviation struck me as glaring. A new dinner plan with a friend, errands that took just a little too long, moments when her phone seemed permanently glued to her hand. I noticed how carefully she kept it with her, set face down on the counter when she cooked, slipped into her pocket whenever she walked out of a room. It was subtle, maybe something I wouldn't have thought twice about a month ago, but now it pulsed like a warning siren in my mind. One evening, after she left the house for dinner with Sarah, I sat alone at the kitchen table. The quiet of the house was oppressive, and my stomach churned as I tried to convince myself she was telling the truth. Lauren wasn't the type of person who would lie, I repeated over and over like a mantra. She wasn't. She couldn't be. But doubt crept in, relentless and sharp. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys and left the house. I didn't even have a plan, just an impulse I couldn't suppress. I parked a block away from the yoga studio where Lauren claimed to be meeting her friend, the engine idling as I stared through the windshield. An hour passed, then another, but she never showed. My throat felt tight, like my own body was suffocating me from the inside. The drive home felt endless. I arrived minutes before Lauren did, watching her pull into the driveway as though nothing had happened. She came inside with that same breezy confidence, carrying a grocery bag and humming softly. When she kissed my cheek and set the bag down, I could hardly look at her. She smiled so effortlessly, so sweetly, I nearly believed my doubts were the problem. But her presence, her warmth, her softness, only deepened the weight in my chest. That night, I lay awake while Lauren slept soundly beside me, her breathing steady and peaceful. I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts spinning like a broken record. The truth was out there, just beneath the surface, waiting for me to uncover it. I knew I couldn't let it go. If I didn't find it, it would eat me alive. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, coffee growing cold beside me, as I tried to piece together the fragments of what I knew. I started with Lauren's email, the strange one I'd found saved to her accounts. I searched for it on Google, social media platforms, and obscure search tools. Nothing. It was like it didn't exist. I leaned back in my chair, frustrated and exhausted. For all my searching, I'd come up empty-handed, as if I'd imagined the entire thing. But I hadn't. That nagging feeling, the one that told me I was right, wouldn't let me rest. My thoughts turned back to the video. I'd spent days pushing it out of my mind, trying to pretend it wasn't real. But now, it was the only clue I had left. I reopened the site, my pulse thundering in my ears as I typed a single word into the search bar, hidden. Hundreds of results appeared, grainy, shaky videos tagged with words like caught and secret cam. I scrolled mindlessly, my gut churning, until I saw it again. The thumbnail made my chest tighten, but I clicked on it anyway. The video began the same way it had before, poor lighting, an unsteady camera. I forced myself to focus this time, to look at the details I'd ignored before. The bedspread was beige with a dark brown stripe. The curtains were cream-colored, the artwork on the wall crooked. A wave of nausea hit me as I realized I knew that room. Lauren and I had stayed there for a weekend getaway 2 years ago, a small hotel just outside of town. I scanned the video description, my vision blurring as I read the words, married wife caught on hidden cam, taken during work trip. Hotel room 214. My head started spinning. Lauren had taken a work trip 2 months ago. I hadn't thought twice about it. I hadn't questioned it at all. Now, the details, the room, the bed, the timeline, started lining up like puzzle pieces snapping into place. When Lauren came home that evening, I watched her like a hawk. She moved through the house as if nothing had changed, humming to herself while chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked calm, almost serene. But as I stood there, studying her, I felt like I was staring at a stranger. I thought about the hotel room. I thought about the video, the flicker of hesitation I'd seen in her eyes the night before. She was hiding something, I knew that now, but I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed more than suspicions, more than gut feelings. I needed proof that couldn't be denied. I didn't want to know the truth, not really. Part of me still clung to the hope that I was wrong, that this was some awful misunderstanding, that Lauren would smile and laugh when I told her about my paranoia and prove me a fool for ever doubting her. But I couldn't let go. I was walking blindfolded into the fire, knowing I was going to get burned. The truth has a way of waiting patiently for the right moment to shatter everything. It was only a matter of time. I'd been circling around it for weeks, piecing together breadcrumbs, catching glimpses of a reality I didn't want to accept. The video, the strange email, her perfectly timed explanations, they all pointed to something I wasn't ready to confront. But it came anyway, fast and merciless. The tipping point started on an otherwise ordinary Wednesday. Lauren was at work, and I was supposed to be working remotely, but my laptop sat untouched. My mind kept drifting back to the hotel in the video, room 214. I couldn't shake it. It felt like a loose thread begging to be pulled. Finally, I grabbed my keys and headed out, not even sure what I was going to do when I got there. The hotel looked exactly as I remembered it, nondescript, small, and quiet, just a place for business travelers or couples passing through town. I parked in the lot and sat there for a while, my heart hammering in my chest. It felt stupid to be there. What was I hoping to find? An answer. Closure. A way to make this nightmare stop. Eventually, I walked inside. The lobby was empty except for a woman at the front desk typing something into a computer. I approached her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hi. I stayed here a couple of years ago," I said. "I was wondering if you could tell me if you still rent out the same rooms. We had room 214, and it just brought back memories." The woman looked at me, polite but suspicious. "We usually keep the same numbers for the rooms," she said. 214 is one of our standard queen rooms. Were you looking to book it again? I felt my stomach drop. My mind flashed back to the video, the crooked painting, the beige bedspread, Lauren's face. This was the room. My legs felt weak, but I managed to thank her and leave the hotel without falling apart. On the drive home, my thoughts spiraled. There was no escaping it now, Lauren had been there. She had lied to me about the work trip. And the video, as much as I had tried to convince myself otherwise, was real. I spent the rest of the day pacing the house, my anger rising like a slow burn. I thought of every moment Lauren had smiled at me, every sweet word, every kiss, all while carrying a lie big enough to destroy us. I still didn't know who the two men in the video were, but I knew Lauren had been part of it, willingly or not. That fact alone made it impossible to breathe. I couldn't confront her without proof she couldn't deny. I needed to know everything, no matter how ugly it was. So I did something I never thought I'd do, I installed spyware on her laptop. It felt dirty and invasive, but I didn't care anymore. I'd trusted her for years, and she'd made me feel like a fool. I wanted the truth, and I didn't care how I got it. Underscore 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 underscore. 2 days later, the program delivered. Lauren had left for a quick coffee with coworkers, leaving her laptop open on the kitchen counter. I checked the spyware log and found exactly what I was looking for, a folder of downloads hidden deep in her system. At first, it looked innocent, just random file names. But when I clicked through, my hands shaking, I saw them. The videos. Not just one, several. They were all the same. Shaky, hidden camera angles. Lauren in that hotel room, with those same two men. My stomach churned as I clicked through them, my mind unable to process what I was seeing. The timestamps told me everything I needed to know, these weren't old. Some were from months ago, others from just a few weeks back. And then I found it. A message thread tucked into an app one didn't recognize, probably something she'd downloaded to keep it hidden. The messages were between Lauren and one of the men from the video. His name, at least his username, was David. I scrolled through the conversation, my hands trembling, my breath shallow. The texts were casual, almost friendly, with hints of something darker beneath the surface. Got another room booked for Thursday. You in? Of course. Can't wait. Same setup. Same setup. You're a natural, you know. LOL stop. Just don't let this get out. He'd never forgive me. The words blurred in front of my eyes, my mind zeroing in on the last line, he'd never forgive me. She knew. She knew what this would do to me, and she'd done it anyway. I slammed the laptop shut and sat back, feeling like the walls of the house were closing in. My wife, the woman I'd loved and trusted for years, had been sleeping with other men and letting them film it. Not just once, but repeatedly. For hours, I sat there in silence, my mind numb. I thought about the first time I'd seen Lauren, how her smile had lit up the room. I thought about our wedding, her vows, the way her voice trembled when she promised to love me forever. I thought about the life we'd built, the dinners, the vacations, the lazy Sunday mornings, all of it built on a lie. By the time Lauren came home that evening, I'd made up my mind. I didn't greet her when she walked in. I didn't smile or ask about her day. I just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the empty screen of her laptop. She paused in the doorway, probably sensing that something was wrong. "Hey," she said softly. "Everything okay?" For the first time in weeks, I looked her directly in the eyes. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. She knew. And the facade she'd worked so hard to maintain began to crumble. The truth was a wrecking ball, and I had no choice but to let it hit. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at Lauren as she walked in the door. Her smile faltered the second she saw me, like some instinct told her the game was over. I didn't need to say a word. The silence was louder than anything I could have screamed. She hesitated for a moment before slowly stepping further into the room. I watched her carefully, every movement, every glance, as realization rippled across her face. She knew. I knew. Everything was out in the open, even if no words had been exchanged yet. Lauren's face crumbled in slow motion, her composure unraveling. Her bag dropped to the floor with a soft thud, her hands shaking as though they couldn't decide whether to reach for me or to shield herself from what was coming. I didn't move. My entire body felt heavy, like I was made of stone, held together only by anger and disbelief. I'd spent days preparing myself for this moment, replaying how I would confront her, what I would say, how I would hold myself together as everything fell apart. But now that it was here, I couldn't bring myself to speak. Words were pointless when the truth sat between us, plain and undeniable. The videos, the hidden messages, the hotel room, they played in my mind on a loop, each detail chipping away at the image of the woman I thought I knew. For years, I had loved Lauren unconditionally. I trusted her in ways I never trusted anyone else. She was my person, my partner, the one constant in my life. And now, I was looking at a stranger. I stood up from the table, unable to sit still any longer. The walls of the house felt suffocating, the weight of the truth pressing down on me from all directions. Lauren followed my movements with wide, pleading eyes, as if silently begging me to fix this, to turn back time to when everything was still intact. But we had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. Everything I'd buried, the doubts, the anger, the pain, clawed its way to the surface, and I felt myself unraveling. My hands trembled at my sides as I walked to the living room and grabbed her laptop. It sat heavy in my grip as I carried it back to the kitchen and placed it on the table. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the refrigerator. I opened the laptop and pulled up the videos. I didn't need to play them, the images on the screen were enough. Lauren's face in that hotel room. The men beside her. The crooked hotel artwork. It was all there in cold, undeniable clarity. I turned the screen toward her and watched as she finally broke. Her knees buckled, and she gripped the edge of the table for support. Her breathing hitched, quick and shallow, like she was on the verge of collapse. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anything. It was as if every emotion had been burned out of me, leaving nothing but emptiness in its place. Lauren tried to explain herself, I could see it in the way her lips moved, silent and frantic, but I didn't listen. There was no explanation that could make this okay. No excuse that could rebuild the trust she had shattered. All the love I'd felt for her now felt like a lie, a memory tainted by betrayal. I turned away from her, unable to look at her any longer. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, where I would go, what I would do, how I would even begin to untangle my life from hers. The house felt unfamiliar now, as if I didn't belong in it anymore. The photos on the walls, the dishes in the sink, the smell of her perfume still lingering in the air, it was all a mockery of the life we'd built. She tried to follow me as I moved through the house, her footsteps light and hesitant behind me, but I ignored her. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started throwing clothes into it, my hands working on autopilot. Socks, jeans, shirts, I didn't care what I packed. I just needed to leave. The sound of her crying filled the silence, but it barely registered. My mind felt detached, my focus sharp and narrow. I couldn't stay here. Not with her. Not with the weight of what I knew. By the time I zipped up the bag and slung it over my shoulder, I had made my decision. I walked through the house one last time, pausing briefly in the doorway to the kitchen. Lauren stood there, her face streaked with tears, her body trembling as she watched me. I didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. I walked out the door and didn't look back. The drive was long and quiet, the hum of the tires on the road the only sound to keep me company. I didn't know where I was going yet, maybe to a friend's house, maybe to a hotel, but anywhere was better than being under the same roof as her. The truth felt heavy in my chest, like a boulder I couldn't shake off. For years, I believed Lauren was everything I needed. She was the center of my world, the person I trusted most. And now, she was the person who had broken me. I parked in a lot outside a cheap motel, the kind with flickering lights and peeling paint. I sat there for a long time, staring at the neon glow reflecting off my windshield, feeling the weight of everything crash down on me all at once. The betrayal, the humiliation, the sheer disbelief that this was my life now. I thought about the version of myself from just a few weeks ago, the man who believed his marriage was unshakable, who trusted his wife without question, who had no idea his world was about to implode. That man was gone now, buried beneath the ruins of what Lauren had done. The videos, the lies, the hidden messages, they played in my mind like a cruel movie I couldn't turn off. I didn't know what came next. I didn't know how I would rebuild myself after this. All I knew was that the life I thought I had was over. And there was no going back.